The SOS signal. The Earth's deep space listening post sat in the cold silence of the Kuiper Belt, far from the warmth of the sun. For years, it had captured faint whispers of the universe, dying stars, rogue comets, and the occasional lost alien transmission. On a quiet day, the massive satellite dish hummed as usual, scanning the void. But today, something different happened. A strange signal cut through the static. The tone was desperate, urgent, and filled with a language no human had ever encountered. Operators at the station scrambled to analyze it. It was faint, like a distant voice shouting from the other side of the galaxy. However, one thing was clear. It wasn't just a random noise. This was an SOS. "What do we have?" asked Commander Ellis, pacing the control room. The tension was thick as technicians worked frantically to decipher the message. "It's a distress signal, sir. Automated, but there's something odd about it," replied Ava, the lead communications officer. She tapped her screen, bringing up waveforms that looked erratic yet deliberate. The message contained a single repeating phrase, broadcast in over 100 frequencies. "To the species of unmatched ingenuity, we need you." Ellis frowned. "Species of unmatched ingenuity. That's us, isn't it?" The room fell silent as the weight of those words settled. Humans, often dismissed by more advanced alien species as reckless or primitive, had somehow been called upon. But why? The signal's origin was traced to a remote region of space, a swirling mass of chaotic storms known as the Orion Nebula. It was notorious for its dangerous gravitational anomalies, a place few ships dared to venture. Yet the signal had traveled across countless light years to reach Earth. As word of the SOS spread, the United Nations Space Command convened an emergency meeting. Representatives from every major spacefaring nation gathered, debating whether to respond. "This could be a trap," said one official. "We've had hostile encounters with alien species before. Or it could be an opportunity," countered another. "If they're calling us specifically, it means they know about our capabilities. What if we ignore it and lose a potential ally?" Among the many voices, one name surfaced repeatedly: Captain Aaron Hayes. A seasoned leader with a reputation for thinking outside the box, she had led numerous successful missions in uncharted space. If anyone could handle this, it was her. In her quarters aboard the orbital station Vanguard, Hayes stared out at Earth's blue glow. When the call came through, she wasn't surprised. "We need you, Captain," Ellis said over the secure channel. "This signal, it's like nothing we've ever encountered. They're asking for humanity by name." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "By name? That's unsettling." Ellis nodded. "We don't know what's waiting in that nebula. Could be a trap, could be an honest plea for help. Either way, we need someone who can handle the unexpected." Hayes took a deep breath. The idea of venturing into a region as dangerous as the Orion Nebula wasn't appealing. But the challenge intrigued her. Humanity had always thrived on the edge of the impossible, and this mission sounded exactly like the kind of puzzle she was built to solve. "I'll do it," she said finally, "but I'll need the best crew you can assemble. Engineers, linguists, xenobiologists, the works, and I want the Resolute outfitted for anything." Ellis smiled. "It's already being prepped. Good luck, Captain." As Hayes began reviewing the details of the mission, the mystery deepened. The signal contained fragments of visual data, blurry images of enormous alien ships, battered and adrift. Some of the ships appeared to be partially dismantled, as though scavenged for parts. What had happened to them? Why were they stranded? Back on Earth, public opinion was divided. News channels broadcast debates about the mission, with some hailing it as a chance to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy, while others called it reckless. "This could be our first step toward true interstellar cooperation," one anchor exclaimed. "Or our last step before we stumble into an alien war," said another. Hayes ignored the noise. Her focus was on the task ahead. As she boarded the Resolute, her crew greeted her with a mix of confidence and nerves. They were some of the best minds Earth had to offer, but even they felt the weight of the unknown. "Buckle up," Hayes said with a smirk. "We're about to find out if humanity's ingenuity is as unmatched as they think." The engines roared to life, and the Resolute began its journey toward the Orion Nebula. As the ship broke through the final layers of Earth's gravity, Hayes looked back one last time. She couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would change everything, not just for her crew, but for humanity itself. The SOS signal played in her mind like a haunting melody. "To the species of unmatched ingenuity, we need you." What awaited them in the nebula was still a mystery, but Hayes knew one thing for sure. Humanity was about to be tested like never before. Journey into the unknown. The Resolute was a marvel of human engineering, a blend of raw power and adaptive technology designed to survive the harshest environments. As it cruised toward the Orion Nebula, the crew moved with purpose, knowing they were venturing into a region of space that had swallowed countless ships whole. Captain Erin Hayes stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. The holographic projection of the Orion Nebula loomed before her, a swirling mass of chaotic colors and violent storms. It was beautiful, yet menacing, a reminder of how little humanity truly understood about the universe. "Status report," Hayes said, breaking the silence. Lieutenant Marcus Vale, the ship's navigator, glanced at his console. "We'll reach the outer edge of the nebula in 2 hours. All systems green. For now." The "for now" hung in the air like an unspoken warning. Everyone on board knew the risks. The Orion Nebula wasn't just dangerous, it was unpredictable. Gravitational anomalies could tear a ship apart, electromagnetic storms could fry even the most advanced systems, and the eerie silence of ships that never returned served as a grim reminder of what lay ahead. Down in the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Lana Zhao oversaw the final calibrations of the ship's adaptive shielding. She had a reputation for brilliance and a stubborn streak that often clashed with authority. But Hayes trusted her completely. "Zhao," Hayes called through the intercom. "How's our shielding looking?" Zhao wiped her grease-streaked hands on her jumpsuit and smirked. "If this nebula tries to crush us, it'll have to get through me first." Hayes chuckled. "That's what I like to hear." As the Resolute entered the nebula's outer layers, the ship trembled slightly, a subtle reminder of the hostile environment they were now in. Outside, waves of energy rippled through the void, painting the darkness in shades of electric blue and deep crimson. The crew watched in awe as the nebula's beauty unfolded, but the tension was palpable. "Gravitational pull increasing," Vale reported, his voice tight. Compensating with thrusters, the ship groaned under the strain, but the adaptive systems held. For now, they were safe. In the mess hall, xenobiologist Dr. Lena Everett studied the fragments of the SOS signal on her tablet. She was fascinated by the alien language embedded in the transmission. It was unlike anything humanity had encountered before, complex and layered, with nuances that suggested a highly intelligent species. "Captain," Everett said over the comms, "I've decoded part of the signal. It's not just a distress call. It's a plea for survival. They're out of resources and facing some kind of catastrophic failure. But there's something else." "Go on," Hayes prompted. "There's a warning embedded in the message. It's cryptic, but it mentions a hunter. I think whatever stranded them isn't just the nebula." Hayes felt a chill run down her spine. "Understood. Keep working on it. I want to know exactly what we're walking into." As the ship pushed deeper into the nebula, the crew encountered their first major challenge, a sudden burst of electromagnetic energy. The lights flickered, and consoles sparked as systems struggled to adapt. "Shields are holding, but barely," Zhao shouted from the engineering bay. "Divert power from non-essential systems," Hayes ordered. "Keep us steady." The Resolute shook violently as the storm raged around it. Hayes gripped the edge of her console, her eyes fixed on the view screen. Outside, tendrils of energy lashed out like living things, trying to ensnare the ship. "Captain," Vale exclaimed. There's something ahead. A debris field. Looks like wreckage. The bridge fell silent as the image came into focus. The remains of alien ships drifted aimlessly, their twisted metal hulks a grim testament to the nebula's unforgiving nature. Scan the wreckage, Hayes commanded. I want to know if there are any survivors or threats. The sensors pinged, and a faint signal emerged. It was weak, almost imperceptible, but it was there. There's a life pod, Everett said, her voice filled with urgency. One occupant, barely alive. Hayes didn't hesitate. Prepare for retrieval. I want that pod brought aboard immediately. As the crew worked to recover the life pod, the tension mounted. The Resolute maneuvered carefully through the debris field, avoiding jagged shards of alien metal. When the pod was finally secured in the cargo bay, Hayes and Everett rushed to examine its occupant. The pod's hatch hissed open, revealing a figure unlike anything they had expected. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver. Its eyes were large and expressive, filled with fear and pain. It's barely alive, Everett said, scanning the alien with a medical device. We need to get it to the med bay now. As the alien was rushed away, Hayes couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The warning in the signal echoed in her mind. Hunter. Captain. Vale called over the comms. You're going to want to see this. Hayes returned to the bridge, where Vale pointed to the sensor display. Dozens of faint signatures surrounded them, circling just beyond the wreckage. They're not debris, Vale said grimly. They're moving. Hayes' heart sank. Whatever had hunted the alien fleet was still here, and now it had found them. The stranded fleet. The Resolute drifted cautiously through the wreckage of the nebula, its sleek hull a stark contrast to the torn and battered remnants of alien ships. The faint signatures surrounding them became clearer with every passing moment. They weren't just moving. They were circling like predators waiting to strike. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge, her expression grim. Status, Vale. What are we dealing with? Lieutenant Marcus Vale, his face pale under the dim light of the sensor display, swallowed hard. They're biomechanical constructs, Captain. Small, fast, and heavily armed. Threat assessment, Hayes asked, keeping her voice steady despite the growing tension. They outnumber us 50-1, Vale replied. But they haven't attacked yet. It's like they're studying us. Hayes turned to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Kim. Bring up the visual feed. Let's see what we're up against. The view screen flickered to life, showing sleek, insect-like machines darting through the void. Their bodies were a blend of organic and mechanical components, with glowing red cores that pulsed like beating hearts. They moved with unsettling precision, their formation tightening around the Resolute like a noose. They're hunters, Hayes murmured, recalling the warning embedded in the alien distress signal. And we're in their territory. Before she could give the order to engage, the ship's comm system crackled to life. A voice, garbled and weak, broke through the static. It spoke in an alien language, but the tone was unmistakable, pleading. Dr. Everett, translate, Hayes ordered. In the med bay, Dr. Lena Everett worked furiously to stabilize the alien they had rescued. It was barely clinging to life, its silver skin dull and cracked. The words it muttered were faint but desperate, repeating a single phrase. It's saying, "Help us," Everett reported, over and over. Us, Hayes echoed. There are more survivors, Everett nodded. It mentioned a command vessel before losing consciousness. It must be nearby. Hayes turned back to the bridge crew. Vale, can you locate this command vessel? Vale's fingers flew over his console. There's a massive energy signature deeper in the nebula. It matches the alien tech in the distress signal. If it's the command vessel, it's in bad shape. Energy levels are critical. And the biomechanical hunters? Hayes asked. They're blocking the path, Vale said grimly. If we try to reach the command vessel, we'll have to go through them. The bridge fell silent as the weight of the situation sank in. They had a choice: risk everything to reach the stranded fleet or retreat and leave the survivors to their fate. Hayes made her decision. Zhao, prepare the ship for evasive maneuvers. Kim, load countermeasures. We're going through. The crew sprang into action, their fear replaced by determination. The Resolute surged forward, its engines burning bright against the swirling chaos of the nebula. The biomechanical hunters reacted instantly, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Countermeasures deployed. Kim shouted as clusters of decoy drones launched from the Resolute. The hunters hesitated, their movements faltering as they split their focus between the decoys and the ship. "Hold steady," Hayes commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We're almost through." The Resolute weaved through the storm of hunters, its adaptive shielding absorbing glancing blows from their razor-sharp appendages. Zhao's modifications held, but barely. Each hit sent a ripple through the ship's hull, threatening to breach. Finally, they broke through the swarm, leaving the hunters in their wake. Ahead of them loomed the alien command vessel, a colossal ship that dwarfed the Resolute. Its once pristine hull was scorched and riddled with holes, and its lights flickered weakly like a dying ember. "Magnify," Hayes said, her eyes narrowing as the view screen zoomed in on the vessel. It was shaped like a crescent moon, with intricate patterns carved into its surface. Despite its battered state, it exuded a sense of grandeur and mystery. "Life signs?" Hayes asked. Vale's console beeped. "Hundreds, Captain. Most are in stasis, but a few are active. They're clustered near the ship's core." Hayes turned to Zhao. "Can we dock?" Zhao shook her head. "Their docking systems are offline. We'll have to use the shuttles." "Then let's move," Hayes said. "Vale, Kim, you're with me. Zhao, you have the bridge. If those hunters catch up, buy us time." As Hayes and her team boarded the shuttle, the tension on the Resolute remained high. The crew knew their captain was walking into unknown danger, but retreat was not an option. The shuttle approached the alien vessel with care, its lights illuminating the twisted wreckage. Inside, the atmosphere was thin and cold, filled with the faint hum of failing machinery. The survivors were clustered in a central chamber, their silver skin shimmering dimly under the flickering lights. One of them stepped forward, taller than the rest. Its voice was weak but commanding. "You are the species of ingenuity." Hayes nodded. "We're here to help, but we need to know what happened. What are those things out there?" The alien's eyes dimmed, and it spoke a single word: harvesters. The explanation that followed was chilling. The biomechanical hunters were a weapon of an ancient enemy, designed to strip ships of resources and capture survivors for assimilation. The alien fleet had flowed into the nebula to escape them, but it had been a trap. Now, with their ships crippled and their resources drained, they had called out to the only species they believed could save them: humans. Hayes looked at the survivors, her resolve hardening. "We're going to get you out of here. But first, we need to deal with those harvesters." The alien leader nodded solemnly. "We will help. But the harvesters will not stop. They have already called for reinforcements." Hayes' stomach sank. Reinforcements meant more than just a few hunters. It meant an entire swarm. And they were running out of time. The common enemy. The survivors aboard the alien command vessel watched warily as Captain Hayes and her team assessed their surroundings. The ship's interior was both alien and familiar, a blend of advanced technology and ancient artistry. Holographic displays flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. Hayes turned to the alien leader, whose liquid silver skin shimmered faintly in the dim light. "You said the harvesters have called for reinforcements. How long until they arrive?" The alien, who identified itself as Commander Elon, closed its eyes briefly, as if calculating. 2 planetary cycles. Perhaps less. They will come in numbers that even your ingenuity cannot overcome. The weight of Elon's words hung heavily in the air. Hayes exchanged a glance with Vale and Kim, both of whom wore expressions of grim determination. Then we'll need to act fast, Hayes said. Dr. Everett, can we learn anything from the survivors? Weaknesses in the Harvester's design. Everett, who had joined the team aboard the alien vessel, nodded. I'll start questioning the survivors. But Captain, their biological systems are deteriorating. Whatever they've endured has left them fragile. Do what you can, Hayes replied. She turned to Vale. I want a full scan of this ship. Look for anything we can use. Weaponry, energy reserves, anything. As the humans began their work, the survivors watched with a mixture of awe and skepticism. For a species as advanced as the Zykarn, it was humbling to rely on what they had once dismissed as a young and reckless race. But as the humans moved with purpose, improvising solutions to problems the Zykarn had deemed unsolvable, a flicker of hope stirred among them. In the engineering bay of the Resolute, Zhao was working against the clock. The ship had taken damage during their escape, and the shields were holding on a threadbare patchwork of repairs. Captain, we can't take another hit like that, Zhao said over the comms. If those reinforcements show up before we're ready, we're done for. We'll be ready, Hayes assured her. Just keep the ship in one piece until then. Back on the alien vessel, Vale made a discovery. Captain, there's something you need to see. Hayes followed him to a chamber near the ship's core, where a massive device loomed. Its intricate design pulsed faintly, emitting a soft hum. It's a quantum destabilizer, Elon explained, stepping forward. A weapon of last resort. It can disrupt the Harvester's neural network, but it was damaged during our escape. We could not repair it. Hayes examined the device, her mind racing. If it could disable the Harvesters, it might be their only chance. But the damage was severe, and the Zykarn's advanced technology was still alien to her crew. We'll fix it, Hayes said firmly. Elon, provide my team with schematics. Vale, coordinate with Zhao on the Resolute. We don't have time to second-guess this. As the humans and Zykarn worked side by side, tensions began to ease. The survivors, who had initially viewed humanity with skepticism, found themselves impressed by the humans' ingenuity. Hayes' leadership, in particular, stood out. She made decisions quickly and decisively, inspiring confidence even in the face of overwhelming odds. But not everyone was convinced. One Zykarn, a defiant soldier named Varric, openly questioned the humans' motives. Why do you help us? Varric demanded, his tone sharp. You have nothing to gain. What do you want in return? Hayes met his gaze without flinching. What we want is to survive. And right now, your survival is tied to ours. We're in this together, whether you like it or not. Varric said nothing, but his skepticism remained. For the Zykarn, trust was a fragile thing, and the scars of betrayal ran deep. As the repairs to the quantum destabilizer progressed, Everett made a chilling discovery. Examining the survivors' biological systems, she found traces of a viral agent, something designed to weaken and control them. This isn't just a physical invasion, Everett told Hayes. The Harvesters are using a biological weapon to break them down from the inside. If they deploy this against us, we'll face more than just a swarm of machines. Hayes' jaw tightened. The stakes had just risen. The Harvesters weren't just hunters. They were conquerors. The breakthrough came hours later. Zhao, working remotely with Vale and the Zykarn engineers, managed to stabilize the device. The quantum destabilizer was operational, but its range was limited. They would need to lure the Harvesters into a specific area to ensure its effectiveness. We'll use the wreckage as a trap, Hayes said, formulating the plan. The debris field is dense enough to limit their maneuverability. If we can bait them in, we can activate the destabilizer and take them out in one strike. And if it doesn't work? Kim asked. Hayes' expression was hard. Then we fight until we can't. The plan was set. The humans and Zykarn worked tirelessly to prepare, reinforcing the wreckage with decoy beacons and rigging the quantum destabilizer for remote activation. Every move was a gamble, every moment precious. As the hours ticked away, the first signs of the harvester reinforcements appeared on the sensors. Dozens of signals, then hundreds, began converging on their location. The swarm was coming. Hayes stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her crew tense but ready. "This is it, people. We either win here, or we don't go home at all." The alien survivors, watching from their battered vessel, waited in silence. For the first time, they felt something they hadn't experienced in years: hope. As the harvesters closed in, the trap was set. The humans and Zakarn braced for the battle of their lives, knowing that the fate of both species hung in the balance. Trust and betrayal. The eerie calm before the storm settled over the fleet. Both human and Zakarn crews worked in synchronized urgency, their shared desperation a fragile thread of unity. The wreckage around them was now a battlefield in waiting, fortified with decoy beacons and improvised mines. The quantum destabilizer hummed faintly aboard the Zakarn command vessel, its repaired systems ready for activation. Captain Hayes stood on the Resolute's bridge, her gaze fixed on the holographic display of the incoming swarm. The harvesters were relentless, their numbers multiplying with every passing hour. They moved like a living tide, their red cores glowing ominously in the void. "Final system check," Hayes ordered. "Shields stable but strained," Zhao reported from engineering. "Weapons calibrated. All decoys in position. Quantum destabilizer is synced to our comlink," Vale added. "We'll have remote control as soon as the swarm is in position." Hayes nodded. "Then we stick to the plan. No deviations." But the tension wasn't limited to the humans. Aboard the Zakarn vessel, a storm was brewing. Varric, the defiant Zakarn soldier, had gathered a small group of dissenters. They whispered among themselves, their distrust of humanity growing with every second. "They're using us," Varric snarled. "They'll destroy the harvesters, but at what cost? Do you think they'll share their victory? Or will they leave us to die once their mission is complete?" Elon, overhearing the accusations, confronted Varric. "Enough. These humans are risking their lives to save us. We owe them our cooperation." "And what do they owe us?" Varric shot back. "Our trust. Our survival. They'll abandon us the moment they've achieved their goal." Before Elon could respond, alarms blared across both ships. The harvesters were here. The Resolute's sensors lit up as the swarm descended upon them. Hundreds of biomechanical constructs surged through the wreckage, their movements impossibly fast and coordinated. They ignored the decoy beacons at first, their collective intelligence too advanced for simple tricks. "Activate the mines," Hayes commanded. A series of explosions rippled through the debris field, tearing through the swarm's ranks. Shrapnel and energy blasts filled the void, but the harvesters adapted quickly, weaving around the hazards with terrifying precision. "They're learning," Kim mourned, her voice tight. "They always do," Hayes replied. "That's why we need to stay ahead of them. Redirect the decoys. Make them think we're retreating." The decoy beacons shifted, broadcasting false signals that mimicked the Resolute's systems. The harvesters hesitated, their formation splitting as they pursued the decoys into the densest parts of the debris field. "Quantum destabilizer range?" Hayes asked. Vale's hands flew over his console. 70% of the swarm is in position. We need to draw them closer." On the Zakarn vessel, tensions reached a breaking point. Varric and his dissenters seized control of the ship's secondary systems, cutting off the humans' access to the destabilizer. Elon confronted him in the control chamber, his silver skin gleaming with anger. "You've doomed us all," Elon shouted. "The destabilizer is our only chance." "No," Varric said coldly. "Our only chance is to survive on our own terms. We will not bow to humans." Hayes' voice crackled over the comms. "Elon, we're losing the link to the destabilizer. What's going on?" Elon, grappling with Varric, managed to reply. "Mutiny. Varric's group. They've locked us out." Hayes' heart sank. The entire plan hinged on the destabilizer. Without it, they were hopelessly outnumbered. She made a snap decision. Kim, take command of the Resolute. Vale, with me. We're boarding the Zykarn vessel. The shuttle ride to the alien ship was tense, every second feeling like an eternity. When Hayes and Vale arrived, the Zykarn command chamber was in chaos. Edlon had subdued Varric, but not before the systems were heavily damaged. Captain Hayes, Elon said, his voice heavy with regret. The destabilizer. It's offline. Hayes assessed the damage quickly. We can fix this, but we'll need time. Time is something we don't have, Vale pointed out, his voice tight. The swarm is closing in. Hayes turned to Elon. We'll need your people's help to hold the line. If we don't get that destabilizer working, none of us are getting out of here. Elon hesitated, then nodded. We'll fight. Back in the debris field, the harvesters pressed their assault. The Resolute and the remaining Zykarn ships fought valiantly, but the swarm was overwhelming. Zhao's voice came over the comms, her tone urgent. Captain, shields are failing. We need that destabilizer now. Hayes and Vale worked furiously to repair the device, their hands moving in sync as Elon and his crew provided guidance. Sparks flew, and the hum of the destabilizer grew louder. It's ready, Vale announced, but we'll need to activate it manually. The remote link is too unstable. Hayes didn't hesitate. I'll do it. No, Elon said, stepping forward. This is my ship, my crew, my responsibility. Hayes looked at him, seeing the resolve in his glowing eyes. She nodded. Good luck. As Elon prepared to activate the destabilizer, the harvesters breached the command vessel. The Zykarn survivors fought fiercely, their advanced weapons cutting through the biomechanical constructs, but it was a losing battle. Now, Elon, Hayes shouted. Elon slammed his hand onto the control panel, and the destabilizer roared to life. A wave of quantum energy surged outward, disrupting the neural network of the harvesters. The constructs froze mid-attack, their red cores flickering and dimming. One by one, the harvesters collapsed, their lifeless forms drifting through the void. The battlefield fell silent. On the Resolute, the crew erupted in cheers. Hayes and Vale returned to their ship, exhausted but victorious. Elon and the remaining Zykarn survivors stood in solemn gratitude. You saved us, Elon said, bowing his head. Against all odds, you gave us hope. Hayes shook her head. We survived because we worked together. But this isn't over. The harvesters will come again. Elon nodded. And when they do, we'll be ready. Together, as the Resolute and the Zykarn ships prepared to leave the nebula, Hayes allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. Trust had been earned, betrayal overcome, and a new alliance forged in the fires of battle. But the question lingered. How long could they hold against a relentless enemy like the harvesters? The fight was far from over, but humanity had once again proven its resilience, and that, Hayes thought, was a victory worth celebrating. The final stand. The Resolute and the battered Zykarn fleet limped toward a temporary sanctuary deep within the nebula. The wreckage of the harvesters drifted behind them like fallen titans, but the victory was bittersweet. The quantum destabilizer had saved them, but its activation had sent a signal, a beacon that would draw more harvesters. Aboard the Resolute, Captain Hayes leaned over the command console, her mind racing. Every decision she had made thus far had been a gamble. Some paid off. Others had nearly cost them everything. Now, she faced the grim reality of what lay ahead. Vale, she said, her voice steady but tense. How much time before reinforcements arrive? Vale's fingers danced across his console. 2 hours, maybe less. Whatever we did back there got their attention. Hayes nodded, then turned to Zhao on the comms. What's the status of the Resolute? Barely holding together, Zhao replied. I've patched the shields, but we're running low on energy reserves. If we push the engines any harder, we'll fry them. Hayes exhaled, glancing at the holographic projection of their location. The nebula's treacherous terrain offered a slim chance of survival if they could use it to their advantage. "We're not running," Hayes said firmly. "This ends here. We make our stand." On the Zykarn vessel, Commander Elon gathered the remnants of his crew. They were tired, wounded, and wary of another battle. Elon addressed them with a voice that carried both determination and regret. "We are out of options," he said. "The humans have fought for us, bled for us. Now we fight alongside them. If we fall here, we fall together." The Zykarn nodded, their silver eyes glowing with renewed resolve. For a species that had once viewed humanity with disdain, they now saw the strength in their resilience. The plan was simple in theory, but execution would require every ounce of ingenuity and courage from both crews. They would lure the incoming harvesters into a narrow corridor of the nebula, where the gravitational anomalies and electromagnetic storms would act as natural weapons. The Resolute and Zykarn vessels would serve as bait, drawing the swarm into the trap. "We'll rig the wreckage with explosive charges," Zhao explained during the strategy briefing. "When the harvesters enter the corridor, we detonate it, creating a chain reaction. With any luck, it'll cripple their reinforcements." "And if it doesn't?" Kim asked. Hayes' expression was hard. "Then we use every weapon we have until we can't." As the crews prepared for the final confrontation, an unexpected moment of quiet unfolded. Dr. Everett, who had been tending to the Zykarn wounded, approached Hayes on the bridge. "Captain," Everett said softly, "there's something you should know. The Zykarn survivors, they see this as more than a battle. They see it as redemption." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "Redemption." "They believe their defeat at the hands of the harvesters was a punishment for their arrogance," Everett explained. "Helping us now is their way of proving they've learned humility." Hayes considered this, her gaze drifting to the stars beyond the view screen. "Then let's make sure they get their chance to prove it." The harvesters arrived like a tidal wave, their glowing red cores cutting through the darkness. From the Resolute's bridge, Hayes watched the swarm approach, their movements eerily coordinated. "They're splitting into 3 groups," Vale reported. "One's heading straight for the corridor. The other 2 are flanking." "Typical harvester tactics," Elon said over the comms. "They adapt quickly. They'll test us before committing their full force. Then let's give them something to think about," Hayes replied. "Kim, target the lead group. Zhao, prepare to divert power to shields. We're going to hit them hard." The Resolute unleashed a barrage of kinetic rounds and plasma bursts, lighting up the nebula in a dazzling display of firepower. The Zykarn vessels followed suit, their advanced weaponry slicing through the swarm with precision. The harvesters responded swiftly, their smaller units weaving through the wreckage to flank the ships. One Zykarn vessel took a direct hit, its hull buckling under the assault. The crew barely had time to eject before the ship disintegrated. "Focus fire on the flanks," Hayes ordered. "We need to keep them contained." The battle raged on, a chaotic dance of destruction. The Resolute and Zykarn ships fought valiantly, but the swarm's numbers seemed endless. Despite the overwhelming odds, Hayes' plan began to take shape. The main group of harvesters entered the corridor, their pursuit relentless. "Zhao, are the charges ready?" Hayes called. "Ready and waiting," Zhao replied. "Just say the word." "Vale, status of the secondary groups?" Hayes asked. "They're regrouping, but we buy ourselves some time," Vale reported. "If we're going to do this, it has to be now." Hayes gave the order. "Detonate." The charges detonated in a brilliant chain reaction, the explosions rippling through the corridor. The gravitational anomalies amplified the destruction, pulling harvesters into the chaos like moths to a flame. The swarm's tightly knit formation broke apart, their once coordinated movements descending into disarray. Cheers erupted across the Resolute's bridge, but Hayes remained focused. "Don't celebrate yet. What's left of the swarm?" Vale scanned the sensors. "They're retreating. What's left of them, anyway?" Hayes allowed herself a small smile. "Good. But stay alert. This isn't over until we're clear of the nebula." As the battle wound down, the crews took stock of their losses. 2 Zykarn ships had been destroyed, and the Resolute's hull bore the scars of countless impacts. Yet, against all odds, they had survived. On the Zykarn vessel, Elon and his crew bowed their heads in silent mourning for their fallen comrades. Varric, who had been subdued after his mutiny, stood silently among them. For the first time, he seemed to understand the cost of his distrust. Elon approached Hayes as she prepared to return to the Resolute. "Captain Hayes," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "We owe you our lives. We owe you everything." Hayes shook her head. "You owe us nothing." This was about survival, for all of us. As the 2 fleets limped toward safety, Hayes couldn't help but reflect on the battle. They had faced overwhelming odds and come out alive, but the harvesters were not gone. They were only delayed. "We've won the battle," Hayes said to her crew, "but the war is far from over." And in the depths of the nebula, the remains of the harvesters stirred, their red cores flickering back to life. Hope rekindled. The Resolute and the surviving Zykarn fleet emerged from the chaotic depths of the Orion Nebula, battered but alive. Their victory over the harvesters felt hollow, a temporary reprieve from an enemy that was relentless, adaptive, and unyielding. Yet, as they floated in the fragile calm of open space, something new blossomed, a fragile but resolute hope. Captain Aaron Hayes stood on the bridge of the Resolute, surveying the damage. The once pristine ship was scared, its hull riddled with impacts, and its energy reserves dangerously low. But her crew, despite their exhaustion, moved with renewed purpose. They had survived the impossible. "Status report," Hayes said, her voice steady but weary. Zhao's voice crackled over the comms from engineering. "We've got temporary patches on the shield emitters, but they won't hold if we face another fight. Engines are limping along at 50% capacity. In short, Captain, we're held together by duct tape and sheer willpower." Hayes smirked faintly. "Good work, Zhao. Keep her together for just a little longer." Lieutenant Vale turned from his console. "Captain, the Zykarn vessel is hailing us." "Put them through," Hayes said. The holographic image of Commander Elon appeared on the bridge, his silver skin reflecting the dim light of his battered command chamber. He looked weary but determined. "Captain Hayes," Elon began, his voice filled with an uncharacteristic warmth, "we owe you more than we can express. Your ingenuity and courage saved not only our lives, but our honor." Hayes inclined her head. "We only did what needed to be done, Elon. Survival is a shared goal." Elon's expression grew serious. "But survival alone is not enough. The harvesters will return, and when they do, they will bring greater force. If we are to endure, we must prepare together." The humans and Zykarn began forging an alliance, born not from convenience but mutual respect. The Zykarn, once a proud and isolated species, saw in humanity a resilience and adaptability they had underestimated. The humans, in turn, recognized the Zykarn's advanced technology and intricate understanding of galactic threats as invaluable assets. Aboard the Resolute, Dr. Everett worked tirelessly alongside Zykarn scientists to reverse engineer harvester components salvaged from the wreckage. Their discoveries revealed chilling truths. The harvesters were not merely biomechanical constructs. They were part of a vast, interconnected intelligence spanning the galaxy. "This isn't just a swarm," Everett explained during a briefing. "It's a hive mind. Every unit we destroy, every system we disrupt, it all feeds back to something larger, something smarter." Hayes leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "Are you saying the harvesters learn from their losses?" Everett nodded. "Exactly. And if they learn fast enough, they'll adapt to our tactics the next time we face them." Hayes exhaled, her mind racing. The odds had been overwhelming before. Now, they were staggering. As repairs continued, tensions among the Zykarn survivors simmered. Varric, the former mutineer, had been confined to quarters but remained a symbol of lingering distrust. Elon visited him, his expression unreadable. "You nearly cost us everything," Elon said, his tone cold. Varric looked away, shame flickering in his luminous eyes. "I acted out of fear. I didn't trust them, or you." "Fear is understandable," Elon replied. "But fear must not dictate our actions. The humans have shown us a path forward. It is time we rise above our arrogance and embrace it." Varric nodded slowly, his defiance replaced by remorse. "What can I do to make it right?" "Help us prepare," Elon said simply. "Our survival depends on unity." The final preparations were a blend of human ingenuity and Zykarn precision. Using the nebula's resources, the combined fleet developed a new weapon, a pulse generator designed to disrupt the harvester hive mind on a larger scale. It was risky, untested technology, but it represented their best chance at turning the tide. As the fleets prepared to part ways, Hayes and Elon met one last time aboard the Resolute. The bridge was quiet, the crew watching with quiet respect as the two commanders exchanged words. "We'll take what we've learned back to Earth," Hayes said. "Humanity has a habit of rising to challenges, no matter how insurmountable they seem." "And we will rebuild our fleet," Elon replied. "The Zykarn have always been proud, but pride alone will not save us. Perhaps together, we can forge a strength neither of us could achieve alone." Hayes extended her hand, a human gesture of trust. Elon hesitated, then grasped it with his shimmering fingers. The moment was simple, yet profound. A symbol of hope between two species that had once been strangers. As the Resolute and the Zykarn vessels departed in opposite directions, the crew reflected on what they had accomplished. They had faced an enemy unlike any other, forged alliances in the crucible of conflict, and proven that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt, to endure, and to inspire others to do the same. Yet, as the Resolute drifted toward the edge of the nebula, Hayes couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. The harvesters were still out there, an ever-present shadow over the galaxy. This battle had been won, but the war was far from over. "Captain," Vale said quietly, breaking the silence. "What's next?" Hayes looked out at the vast expanse of stars, her expression resolute. "We go home, we prepare, and we make sure that when the harvesters come again, humanity is ready." In the depths of the nebula, unseen by human or Zykarn eyes, the remnants of the harvester swarm stirred. Their fractured cores began to glow once more, faint but unrelenting. The hive mind was watching, waiting, and learning. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of any known galaxy, the intelligence behind the harvesters took notice of humanity for the first time. It smiled.